endless long reads.
Growing up, becoming a man, learning to be an adult, you only get to do these things by knowing who you truly are. In the world of the crossed, that often means that you're fodder one way or the other. But what if who you are is exactly what the world needs? What if the world doesn't need heroes? What if the world of the crossed needs cowards? Selfish people, people that simply watch from the sidelines and never intervene. Will such people be the heralds of humanity in the wake of this apocalypse? Will cowards get to be kings after they have waited out the onslaught of the crossed? Our protagonist, Yellowbelly, surely isn't a hero. This is his coming-of-age story, a deplorable tale of desire, lust, denial, and self-delusion. So sit back, grab a blanket, because things are about to get rough. Crossed Badlands, Yellowbelly, Issue Number 1, The Graduation. Edmund Wickenthorpe is our protagonist for the story, but nobody calls him that. They all instead call him Yellowbelly, and soon we will learn why. Yellowbelly is at his graduation ceremony, and he starts his story by confessing to us that he peed his pants in the 6th grade. Someone else would have said it if Yellowbelly hadn't, so better safe than sorry. He then starts introducing us to his schoolmates. The first one is Hank Smith, the coolest kid from Yellowbelly's class. He plays football, is dating the hottest girl from the school. Then we see a school yearbook photo as Yellowbelly introduces us to the others. The second guy with the touchdown ball in the photo is Jim Morgan. The third guy with the red hair is Bobby McCain. His whole shtick to being famous is the fact that his father owns a Corvette. And the last guy is named Joe Rigg. He is tough as nails. In fact, Yellowbelly is pretty sure that he eats nails for breakfast. Then there's the redneck outcasts, Sweeney, Mac, and Stevie, big, medium, and small versions of assholes in their school. Then it's time to be introduced to the prom queen, Katie Weiner. She's so cool and beautiful that no one dares to make Weiner jokes about her, not to her face at least. Then there's her best friend, Shauna Prentice. She is super smart, super cool, and super good looking, a cosmically unfair hand of cards dealt by the universe in Yellowbelly's opinion. And then he introduces us to his crush, Betty Ford, through her yearbook photo. He tells us that she talked to him once, but in reality that event happened very differently when compared to Yellowbelly's memory. Betty was busy talking to her friend near the lockers, ranting to her about her boyfriend, when Yellowbelly tried to remind her that the class was about to start. She never heard him, and so he tried getting closer to her when she wasn't looking. In that moment, Betty suddenly turned around and bumped into Yellowbelly. Her books fell to the floor and Yellowbelly helped her by picking them up. She thanked him awkwardly, and that was the extent of their conversation. She even told a couple of her friends that she was horrified that Yellowbelly touched her and that now she needed a bath to get rid of the nasty feeling. Yet Yellowbelly chose to see this as a great memory, and that's because he is a pervert. A pervert who cherishes this memory because when Betty bumped into him, her boob touched his arm. The sensation of which he vividly remembers to this day. He knows she wasn't wearing a bra, and if he could, he would get a tattoo to commemorate that moment. But tattoos aren't his cup of tea. The mere thought of blood scares him. After the graduation ceremony, the entire school has gone to a party of some kind. The entire school except Yellowbelly, who is celebrating with family at Patty's Diner. As a graduation present, his parents have added him to the family car insurance, which will finally allow him to drive the car in their presence, and they will make sure to correct him every step of the way. As they drive out of the diner, we see a big poster for Bauble's Traveling Circus, which is currently set up in the town of Emerson, around 20 miles away. Yellowbelly lives in the town of Palmer along with his family, and though the circus eventually does show up in their town a week later, it has always been a Wickenthorpe family tradition to go and attend the circus in the town of Emerson. That's where Yellowbelly, his father, and his little brother Eli are headed right now. When they reach their destination, the circus is a marvel to behold. Fried snacks, ice cream, hot dogs, peanuts, you name it, the circus has it. And that's not all, there are multiple sideshows portraying all kinds of freaks, monsters, and other wonders. There's the Wolfman, a hairy man with questionable origins. Then there's the Strongman, an exceptionally strong man who can lift seemingly 350 pounds over his head. There's a Sword Swallower as well as Snakeella, a woman covered in snakes from head to toe. Last but not least is the amazing Moobao, a man from America who is missing his lower half. He is being marketed as the half-man, a wonder of the world who was born without legs, when in reality, Moobao likely suffered some horrific accident back in Africa. Then there's the star of the show, Shadow, the geek, neither man nor beast, a monster seemingly willing to do anything, hidden behind the barriers of a $3 admission fee. Yellow Belly's father had promised Eli that he would take the boys to see the geek when their mother wasn't there with them, and tonight seems to be the night for it. Eli begs his father to go see the geek, but this is when Yellow Belly starts refusing the idea. His father, however, knows how cowardly he is, which is why he tells Edmund that he can stay outside if he wishes, and this is when Eli calls him Yellow Belly under his breath, just like his classmates. This is when Edmund decides to man up and go see the geek, so as to not become a joke to his little brother. When they head inside, the man who is going to introduce the geek warns everyone that no loud noises and no flash photography are allowed while the curtain is open. He then steps aside and the curtains part to reveal a hideous, gangly man with overgrown hair and some fake fur around his waist. It's clear to the adults that this is a fake show to scare the kids, but it seems to be working for Yellow Belly as well. He describes it as the most horrible thing he has seen in his life, but the others around him are chuckling and cracking jokes. One man even jokes that the geek looks like his Uncle Dom after Thanksgiving. The host who introduced the geek then tells the crowd more about him. He says, "We found him roaming the mountains of Montana. He had just killed a wild seal with his fingernails. Now watch." And then the circus lets a diamondback rattlesnake slither into the geek's cage. At this point, Yellow Belly is using all his will to keep watching. If Eli wasn't there, he would have run out of the tent long ago. But he doesn't want to be a coward in front of his little brother, which is why he forces himself to watch the geek as he picks up the snake and bites into it. The poor snake bleeds and dies within the man's grasp, and Yellow Belly is barely able to hold the contents of his stomach in. His father reassures him that this is a trick, but the sight is too ghastly for Yellow Belly to notice that the man is using a knife to slice the skin's hide. When the show is over, they head into the big tent for the main show of the night, the trapeze artists, the clowns, and of course, the abused tigers. Yellow Belly likes the main event, but not for its various attractions. He likes it because there are trapeze artists in skimpy clothes. Last year, a beautiful trapeze artist took the stage, and Yellow Belly found himself unable to stop staring at her butt. He still remembers her, and whenever he closes his eyes, he imagines that butt in front of his face. Meanwhile, backstage, we are introduced to the man who plays the geek and his host. The man is named Henry, and the host's name is Barry. Henry is a homeless man who does this horrid job for the money. Unlimited booze is part of his payment, but the fact that their boss, Boris, just forced him to eat a live rattlesnake isn't sitting well with him. Barry tells him that they made sure to remove the snake's poison sac, yet this doesn't reassure Henry a tiny bit. Henry wanted the snake's fangs removed as well, and what's more is that he had trouble cutting through the snake's hide because of his dull knife. Barry warns him that he should keep the complaints to himself because Boris is getting tired of his antics. Henry is no magician, and his attempt at sleight of hand when using a knife only makes him seem like a clown in front of the crowd. The little children may believe him, but anyone above the age of 10 can see right through his act. Barry then gets down to his level and calmly tells him that he should try biting the snakes during his act. It would make him seem more believable and keep this job. After all, he has access to free booze. Even if the taste is disgusting, he can wash it down after the show. Barry ensures to emphasize how dire the situation is by reminding Henry that he doesn't want to be back out on the street all by himself, and it seems that Henry is getting a grasp of the situation. But unfortunately, Henry has also been drinking from the moment the show got over, which means he is quite inebriated, and so when a strange man walks into their area, he quickly assumes that it is the guy Boris hired to replace him. Henry begins to violently shout and scream at the man, and this is when Barry steps in. He tells Henry that Boris hasn't hired a replacement yet, and this is just some kook that managed to find his way here. Barry then tells the man to get out. However, by the time he notices the rash on him and the blood on his clothes, Barry has already succumbed to the man. The crossed man grabs Barry by his hair and then bites his neck. Yellow Belly, meanwhile, has found someone new to perv on, a woman named Lady Palmono, who is showing her horse tricks to the crowd. She is quite adept and skillful, but that is not what Yellow Belly is focused on. He is focused on her butt. He says, "Does this make me a perv? God, I hope not. Pervs are the worst thing in the world." And this is when the entire crowd is distracted by an ear-piercing scream coming from the vomitory. When Yellow Belly looks in that direction, he is horrified to see multiple geeks wreaking havoc on the performers and the audience. He doesn't know it yet, but these are the crossed, and the outbreak of the C virus is about to take over the entire circus rapidly. Yellow Belly watches as the strong man bashes a woman's face in with a sledgehammer, another crossed performer disembowels a man by hitting him in the crotch with an axe, and Henry is about to stab a woman in the head with his broken liquor bottle. Their father quickly grabs the boys and begins dragging them out of the tent, and though Eli has tons of questions, his father simply tells him to keep running. A woman beside them is actively taken down by one of the crossed, and this makes all three of them quickly pick up the pace. Yellowbelly shrieks as he runs because the scene outside is straight out of a horror movie. A limbless cross growls and crawls towards his next victim. Infected clowns fornicate violently, while fire dancers set unsuspecting victims ablaze. Inside, Boris and the ringmaster accept their fate as the tiger cage is swarmed by the crossed, and the violence continues to unfold outside. And soon the boys and their father are spotted by a crossed clown as they turn a corner. Realizing that they won't be able to reach the parking lot without a fight, Yellowbelly's father forces him and Eli to hide inside a couple of barrels while he goes and takes care of the clown. Yellowbelly knows his father is a meek man. He never even stood up to his wife. Yet today he has found the strength to protect his children, and for that he can't help but commend his father. Internally, of course. Yellowbelly never says such things out loud. His barrel has a hole in it, and so he watches as his father charges the crossed clown armed with a wooden stick. He clocks the clown directly in the head, and for a moment it seems that he might win this battle. But then more clowns show up and the scene turns ghastly. Yellowbelly watches as his father is stripped down to his bare skin and then used by the clowns for their own sadistic pleasure. After they're done, the clowns forget about Yellowbelly's father and simply leave, but his father has turned. He is one of them now, and he knows where his boys are hiding. He beelines for Eli's barrel, and Yellowbelly pees his pants once again out of fear. He desperately wants to warn his brother about what's about to happen, yet he is unable to find the strength to utter a word which would endanger his own safety. And so selfishly, he hides in the barrel, listening to his brother getting violated by his own father, while imagining Lady Palmono's butt to keep himself distracted. That's the last thought he has before his body involuntarily shuts down and Yellowbelly falls asleep in the barrel. That's what he does. That's why they call him Yellowbelly, because he is a coward, and when he is too scared, he simply falls asleep. It's his coping mechanism, and by the time he wakes up, the entire circus has been turned into a massacre. He finally gets out of the barrel, and when he sees all the dismembered bodies and the scattered limbs, he wishes that he was still sleeping. This is when he soils his pants, and surprisingly, he isn't bothered by it. He then spots his father's naked body lying on top of Eli's still clothed body, a wooden stake driven through both their hearts. Yellowbelly finds it reassuring that Eli died before the worst happened to him, but then he is distracted by crossed Lady Palmono, who is busy violently fornicating with another crossed man. Yellowbelly is enamored by this sight. He is turned on, and this is when he finally accepts that he is a perv. He then runs to the parking lot, finds their family car, and then drives home as fast as possible. Upon reaching, he parks the car in the driveway, bolts inside, ignores his mother, and then locks himself in his room. His mother keeps asking him questions. She wants to know about her husband and Eli, but Yellowbelly doesn't respond to her. After locking the door to his room, he hides in the closet, closes the door, and then forces himself to go to sleep once again. Crossed Badlands, Yellowbelly, issue number 2, Logic versus Survival. Yellowbelly had hoped he would sleep the night away, but his mother wasn't going to let that happen. She called the sheriff's deputy when Yellowbelly refused to talk to her, and now Bobby McCann's father is here to question him. Yellowbelly tells him everything he saw, all the killing, all the cannibalism, and all the other acts against nature that he witnessed. Bobby's father obviously doesn't believe him, and Yellowbelly is simply too weak to make his words hold any merit. He tells the deputy that he drove straight home without telling anyone anything, and this is when his livid mother screams that she doesn't care about the circus. She cares about her husband and her son Eli. She wants to know what happened to them and why Edmund came home without them. She then walks out with Bobby's father, and he confesses to her that he doesn't believe what Edmund is saying. He will head to Emerson regardless to find out what happened at the circus, but she should take Edmund's words with a grain of salt. His mother, now emboldened by the deputy's words, angrily heads inside and begins screaming at Edmund. She accuses him of making up the entire story, and then slaps him across the face and forces him to admit that he is lying. But he doesn't say anything. He doesn't admit that he's lying because he really isn't. But he couldn't tell his mother what happened at the circus because deep down, he knows that the geeks won't stop there. And once you do something like this, once you indulge in such depravity, you don't stop until you have infected the entire world. And Edmund is right for once, because in fact, right now, in the dead of night, the infected crossed circus performers are driving their trucks towards the town of Palmer. The next morning, Joe Riggs Greg and Shauna Prentice are busy packing their car for a trip up to the lake along with Jim and Katie when Hank and Bobby show up in his driveway. Bobby tells Joe about Yellow Belly and how he is being a drama queen again. He tells Joe how his father got a call from Yellow Belly's mother last night because he abandoned his father and brother in Emerson. They all learn about Edmund's claims that the circus geeks were eating people, and the boys assume Yellow Belly made up this story to hide another bathroom accident. However, little do they know that their town of Palmer is about to be run over by Edmund's geeks very soon, because they have now reached the trailer park where Sweeney lives with his deadbeat father. They start by targeting a sweet old woman who is busy watering her plants while Sweeney is violently woken up by his father because he took his car keys. His father has an empty liquor bottle in one hand as he demands the car keys because he is seemingly going to be late for work. But this is when Sweeney angrily retorts and reminds him that he was laid off 2 years ago and has been delusional ever since. His father, in turn, kicks Sweeney in the face for mouthing off to him, and this is when Sweeney grabs a shotgun and points it at his dad. His father mocks him for being so brazen because he is the one paying the bills, but Sweeney once again reminds his father that his disability checks pay the bills, not his moping around. His father is about to throw the liquor bottle at him when suddenly the old woman from earlier, now dismembered and infected, barges into their trailer and stabs Sweeney's father in the neck with a gardening trowel. Sweeney instantly pulls the trigger and blows the woman's head off, but the damage is done. His father is no more. He walks out and gets in the car to drive away, and this is when we catch up with Yellow Belly again. He has finally told her what happened to his father and Eli, and naturally his mother is inconsolable, and Yellow Belly has no clue what he's supposed to do in this situation. He feels worthless, and the fact that his mother won't stop crying only exacerbates his guilt. He feels horrible. He could have headed to the sheriff's office straight away after arriving in town, but he cowardly hid himself until his mother was forced to act. He apologizes to his mother profusely, tells her how their father tried to save them by hiding them in barrels, and how he was too scared to do anything when his father and Eli succumbed to the geeks. His mother's instincts overcome her fear and she hugs Yellow Belly, even though she shouldn't. Yellow Belly finally confesses that he is indeed a coward. However, this is when his mother does what any mother would do. She assures him that he is not a coward and that he did the right thing. She tells him that he's brave for coming back into town to warn them all, even though that's not the reason why Edmund came back and hid himself. And they both don't know, but while they share this tender moment, the infected circus performers have now arrived on their street and are making their way into various homes methodically. Yellow Belly is busy embracing his mother when she notices an infected clown peering in through the window. She quickly orders Edmund to hide in the closet and to not come out no matter what happens, and that's exactly what he does. The clowns smash the window with a stone and then enter their home. They violate his mom for hours and then eventually kill her, and even though Yellow Belly can hear everything, he doesn't go out to help her. He simply stays in the closet until he finally passes out of fear, which is his coping mechanism. When he wakes up, he finds Hank, Joe, and Bobby towering over him. Like always, Yellow Belly has soiled himself, and the boys drag him out and show him what remains of his mother. Just a lot of blood and a few limbs. The boys are a bit more sympathetic towards Yellow Belly than usual, partly because he has faced and survived these freaks in Emerson, and partly because he knows more than anyone about them. Upon realizing what has happened in the street and that the geeks are here, Yellow Belly begins to panic and his first instinct is to run away. But Hank grabs him by the collar and chides him for being so cowardly that he has no desire to avenge his mom. This is when it dawns on Bobby that he hasn't heard from his father since he left for Emerson. They drag Yellow Belly out and shove him into the back of their truck. They tell him that it's time for him to man up, and as he watches the other boys shoot and kill the crossed on the street, ruthlessly he deludes himself into believing that this is what it means to be mature. To be 18 years old, you stand your ground and do what the adults would do. You take revenge. The boys soon meet Sweeney, Mac, and Stevie on the street. Hank catches them up to speed and tells them that most of the students have decided to convene at the Seaver's Fish and Tackle because it has tons of weapons, and Sweeney, Mac, and Stevie instantly agree to join them. But Yellow Belly doesn't feel like the rest of them. He knows that they're all either going to die or get infected, which is why he thinks they're all idiots. At the hunting store, Hank is the one rallying all of them. After all, his father's the football coach. He tells everyone that they're going to kill all the geeks. He warns them about the condition being contagious and also that these geeks can be killed if you shoot them in the right place. Hank's speech motivates everyone. They all start arming themselves, and this is when Hank pulls Yellow Belly aside to apologize to him. He confesses that he, along with the other boys, didn't believe him at first. They mocked him for being a coward, but now that they've seen the geeks themselves, they all believe him. Hank thinks that Yellow Belly tried to warn the town, but no one believed believed him, which makes Yellow Belly a hero in his book. And this word, hero, makes Yellow Belly feel a lot better about himself. However, all that is about to change as a speeding truck beelines for the hunting store. Meanwhile, inside, the high schoolers are busy making last-second preparations. Some of them are checking their firearms, some are kissing their girlfriends, and this is when Yellow Belly's dream comes true when Betty approaches him. The geeks killed her parents, and she's here for some support from Edmund because he has survived these freaks before. Yellow Belly pounces on this opportunity by placing his hand on Betty's shoulder and promising her that they will survive this together. His crush smiles at him. Yellow Belly is over the moon because he touched Betty, but then his entire world comes crashing down when the wall beside him explodes. Many are mangled by the truck that hit the wall. Edmund is sent crashing into Betty, which causes him to fall on top of her. In any other moment, this would have been the best moment of his life, but right now he is focused on the geeks, and he is the only one who notices them pouring out of the back of the truck by the dozens. He instantly forgets his promise the moment he had with Betty and confesses to us that he doesn't remember much after that. What really happened, in fact, was that Yellow Belly grabbed a shotgun and instantly abandoned Betty. The other students put up a brave fight. Joe killed many, but Shauna eventually got grabbed by one of the crossed. Sweeney, Mac, and Stevie held out for a long time. They worked as a well-oiled machine. As for Hank, he did his best to keep himself and Shauna alive. As for the others and the students Yellow Belly looked up to, well, they all got overwhelmed by the crossed eventually. They all succumbed to this lunacy of the geeks, and Hank, in the end, was murdered by his own girlfriend. Yellow Belly beelined for the exit, but unfortunately Sweeney was standing in his way. Sweeney was making his last stand, armed with an axe and killing crossed after crossed when he spotted Yellow Belly. Realizing that he was trying to run away once again, Sweeney tried to force him to stand and fight. As a result, Yellow Belly shot and killed Sweeney to make sure that he could run away. Cross Badlands, Yellow Belly, issue number 3, Part of Nothing. While Yellow Belly is passed out, he dreams of something we all can guess. Yellow Belly dreams of big butts. Butts big enough to swallow him whole, his only safe space inside the things he loves most in this world. And then he finally wakes up, once again, outside the hunting store, in the woods behind it, covered in dirt and leaves. He finds the shotgun by his side, and he is now starting to force himself to be more brave. He is forcing himself to go back to the hunting shop and face the reality that he just tried to outrun. He finds nothing but bodies inside the store. Bodies of the crossed and his classmates alike. Bodies with bullet holes in them, bodies with crossbow arrows sticking out of them. He takes a rough count and learns that there are 20 dead crossed in the store. Half of his classmates are also here, but the other half seems to be missing. Maybe they got infected and turned into the geeks? Yellow Belly is not so sure, but the idea that Katie Weiner, Jim Morgan, and Joe Rigg are missing uneases him. And then he realizes that Betty's body is missing as well, and the thought of a crossed Betty returning to exact her revenge scares Yellow Belly to death. But then again, he decides to look at the bright side. He hasn't soiled himself yet, nor does he want to vomit, which is a good sign. In his book, Yellow Belly is becoming tough. He then finds his wallet near Sweeney's body. He remembers dropping it when he ran into him near the exit. Sweeney's body still has the huge hole in it courtesy of Yellow Belly. Yellow Belly tells us that he does feel sorry for shooting Sweeney, even though he called him Yellow Belly and bullied him all his life. But he finds peace in the fact that Sweeney was hell-bent on fighting until the geeks got him, which means that he was going to die either way, and Yellow Belly simply helped expedite the process. He then finds Sweeney's car outside. It's the coolest one in the entire town of Palmer, and this is when Edmund gets a twinge of bravery running through his system. Why shouldn't he take the car and do what he was meant to do? If he has survived 2 assaults by the geeks, then surely he has a bigger purpose, and that purpose is just like his mother had told him. His purpose is to warn people, which is what he's going to do in the town of Lakeside. With hollow confidence on his side, Yellow Belly musters up the courage to steal Sweeney's car and then head to Lakeside. It takes him 32 minutes to reach Lakeside. It's currently 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and this is when it dawns on him that it hasn't even been 24 hours since the first assault. He lost Eli and Dad last night, lost his mother this morning, and his classmates a few hours ago. Time really is moving fast, and so he begins to move equally fast. He jumps out of Sweeney's car and begins warning the first couple he encounters. He tells them about the geeks and how they are on their way to kill and violate everyone. The couple pays no heed to him, and so he turns to the others walking down the street. But everyone thinks he's a kook. If not that, then the others simply assume that he's on drugs and ignore him. This is when Yellow Belly decides to change his strategy. Maybe he should go to the police, or maybe someone more powerful. This is when he spots a dozen bikes parked outside Skid's saloon and soon realizes that he could ask the biker gangs for help. The thought of approaching men twice his size obviously scares him, but he has grown in the past 24 24 hours, and so he somehow musters up the courage to talk to them. This time he manages to frame his story relatively well. He approaches the bikers drinking outside on their bikes and tells them about Emerson. He then tells how the geeks arrived in Palmer and destroyed it as well, and how they are likely on their way here. The biker obviously doesn't believe him, but his girlfriend enjoys Yellow Belly's tall stories. And Yellow Belly got lucky, because among the bikers was their leader, Tricky Ricky, who believed Yellow Belly enough to go check out the town of Emerson on his own to verify his claims. And so, soon the bikers learned that Yellow Belly was telling the truth. Not only that, but the massacre in the circus is still continuing. The Crossed have moved on to more depraved means of pleasure, and the animals involved in the performance are now their victims. After having seen enough, the bikers and Yellow Belly start their journey back to Lakeside. On the way there, Ricky orders his right-hand man, Nuggets, to take a few of the bikers to keep an eye on the highway. Meanwhile, his other lieutenant, Jock, is ordered to keep an eye on the road between Palmer and Lakeside. As soon as the Crossed are spotted, the bikers at the bar are to be alerted at once. Then, once he gets back to the bar, Ricky makes a couple of calls, and within the hour, the place is crawling with hundreds of bikers, all from different gangs. And they don't come alone, they come with tons of weapons, some big enough to destroy a small town. This was going to be an all-out war, and so naturally, with such a huge gathering, there's bound to be a war party. Today is the day Yellow Belly will have his first beer, today is the day he will have his first cigarette, today's the day he will try marijuana, and today's the day he will sleep with a woman for the first time. Her name is Nicole, and Yellow Belly humps her like a chihuahua in heat. Soon, however, he finds out the hard way that Nicole has a boyfriend. His name is Nico, and Nico punches Yellow Belly in the face a few minutes later. If this was any other day or any other party, he might have passed out, he might have soiled himself, but because he is all buzzed up on his first joint, he simply laughs like a moron while Nico holds him by the collar. Yellow Belly learns that bikers share their women as long as they belong in the same gang, so when Nico sees that Yellow Belly isn't scared, he decides to make him a part of the gang. And so today is also the day Yellow Belly gets his first tattoo. He is now part of the Screamin' Skulls. Naturally, Jock shows up sometime later to warn them that the Circus Freaks were on their way here. Nico lets Yellow Belly ride on his bike, and then the war begins. It's a bloody massacre. Many of the Crossed are slaughtered, but so are many of the bikers. Nico eventually crashes his bike when an infected jumps on them, and this sends Yellow Belly tumbling down the hill and into the sewer below. By the time he gathers himself and walks back up the hill, Ricky is already leading the Crossed into the fields nearby. This was the plan all along. Their bikes can run circles around the Crossed in this field, but Yellow Belly is too scared to keep an eye on the unfolding battle. Instead, he takes a look at the exit route out of here, and this is when he realizes that the Crossed are everywhere. Should he join the fight? Should he help the bikers? His heart is screaming yes, but every other part of his body is screaming no. This is when he notices Nicole being chased by a clown, and instead of jumping out of his hiding spot to save her, he simply hopes that she can outrun the Crossed enough to turn around and shoot him. But that doesn't happen. The Crossed manages to tackle Nicole to the ground, and this is when Yellow Belly forces his body to move and step out of the shadows. However, when he does so, he soon learns that the Crossed clown who was about to assault Nicole is none other than Joe Rigg, his former classmate. Joe screams Edmund's derogatory name, Yellow Belly, and then charges him. Yellow Belly pulls the trigger and blows Joe's entire head off. He then gets up, grabs his gun, and goes in to check on Nicole. He is hoping that she has turned, but when he calls out to her, Nicole screams and Yellow Belly panics and shoots her in the head as well. Unfortunately, she wasn't infected. Her face was covered in her own blood, and this is the second innocent person Yellow Belly has murdered in the last 24 hours. This, the death of his parents, the abandoning of his crush, and more, finally begins to weigh him down. He begins to panic, tears begin to flow, and Yellow Belly finally realizes that he has no purpose, no meaning. He is worthless, useless, and that he should have been the one to die instead of his father back at the circus. He should have been brave enough as the oldest son of the family. Finally unable to accept and live with his failures, Yellow Belly turns the gun on himself. He puts the barrel in his mouth, but before he can pull the trigger, a mysterious man's voice stops him. Yellow Belly turns around and he is face to face with a gangly man dressed in the clothes of a salesman. If you're a Crossed fan, then you might already know who this is, but if not, I will let this mystery unfold for you at its own pace. The man looks at Yellow Belly and says, "Laurie's the name, Harold Laurie. I own a party store down south, or I used to anyway. You know, I've never really seen someone blow their head off before, and while that has some appeal, I have to tell you, boy, it would sure be a shame. 'Cause if you listen to my advice, one day soon, you could rule the world." Crossed Badlands, Yellow Belly, issue number 4. What goes around comes around. Laurie is a madman, and you will soon learn why, but when I tell you he is manipulating Edmund, believe me, he is. He starts moseying up to Edmund by first asking his name and then telling him that he was the only sane and smart person he had encountered all day. This caught Edmund off guard, and Laurie used this to his advantage by asking Edmund to take the barrel out of his mouth because Harold didn't want the only other smart person to have their brains splattered on the asphalt. With that out of the way, he begins his manipulation. He shows Yellow Belly the battlefield and says, "Look at these fools. Me and my wife have been on the road since 3 a.m. and all day I've just seen one idiot after the next trying to take these things on." And then he goes on to graphically describe what happens to those that try to fight the Crossed head on. He then tells Edmund that he is not like these men, he is smarter, and he has been making smart decisions, and this seems to be working because Harold is playing into what Edmund already believes. He believes running away, hiding, sleeping, and lying his way to survival has been the right choice all along, and Mr. Laurie is simply confirming what he already knows. Laurie then sits down beside Edmund and says, "The world is going to end, Edmund. These monsters are going to end too. The hiders are going to rule this world, the ones who keep their eyes and ears open, people like me and people like you." Edmund is quickly getting ensnared in Laurie's trap. He has started to believe that he could be king someday, and this is when, in a typical manipulative fashion, Harold now pulls the rug from underneath Edmund's feet and tells him that before the destined future is achieved, Edmund will have to solve the mess that he has on his hands right now. He then points out that the bikers are going to win today's war, and then when they find out that Edmund shot Nicole by mistake, they're going to kill him, unless he does something about it. Edmund quickly scrambles to find solutions. Maybe he can hide Nicole's body, or maybe he can bury it, or maybe he can simply run away. But this is when Harold Laurie reveals that Edmund is going to have to violate Nicole's dead body to solve that problem. Edmund is in Laurie's grasp, so he doesn't question him before doing the deed. Ricky, Jock, and the others, meanwhile, are turning the tide of battle. Of course, some of the bikers have been infected, but there are many more who have not been, and they are turning the tide. Meanwhile, after Edmund has committed the horrific deed, Laurie does the same, and once he is done, Edmund can't help but puke over and over again. He now begins to question why he had to do that. What was the point of it? And this is when Harold smiles and says, "We didn't. No, we didn't have to do that. Not to cover up what you did anyway. For that, you just have to stage the bodies. Shoot the rest of her face off so they can't see that she doesn't have the cross scar." Edmund is shaking in his boots. Yellow Belly is back, and this is when Harold says to him, "There's a bigger picture here. This is the world now. Forget what came before it. Doing that was a lesson, the only lesson worth shit in this world." But what is that lesson? But instead of answering him, Harold simply pats Edmund on the shoulder and walks away. Yellow Belly is confused as he watches Harold get in his car and drive away. He wasn't lying. There is a woman in the front seat with him, but she looks dead. Maybe that's his thing? He likes doing it with dead people? Was that the lesson? No, that can't be it. As Yellow Belly's mind is swarmed with questions, he fails to learn what Harold was trying to teach him. Harold was trying to make Edmund realize that he was just as depraved as him. He would do anything for his own pleasure, even if it meant violating the dead. It's the reason why he never asked those questions before committing the deed, only after. The bikers, meanwhile, take down Jim Morgan, who had taken over their M60 using a chain. They slice his face in half and then kill those that remain. Yellow Belly, meanwhile, quickly shoots Nicole in the face again and then drags and places Jim's body over hers. While the bikers celebrate, Yellow Belly covers his tracks. That night, they partied like rock stars. The bikers hailed Yellow Belly as one of their own, and they all hailed him as a hero. Neither of them realized that not only had he chickened out of the fight, but he had also killed one of their own. That evening, Donna, Ricky's girlfriend, dragged Yellow Belly into a room in the back because she wanted to do it with a hero, and that is what Yellow Belly was to her, a hero. She began to undress, she hugged him, but when she removed his pants, she was disappointed. It wasn't like Yellow Belly wasn't into her. He had been staring at her butt ever since he came to Lakeside. No, right now the problem was that he felt guilty, and some part of him was ashamed of what happened today. And so, in a burst of panic, Yellow Belly instantly blurts out all the horrific things that he did today and more. How he chickened out of the fight, how he peed his pants in 6th grade, why he was called Yellow Belly, how he shot Nicole, and how he and Harold violated her dead body. At first, Donna thought the kid was simply having a panic attack, but by the end of his ramblings, she was too horrified to say anything. All she could do was run out of the room, but this is when Yellow Belly grabbed her, choked her out, and then tied her hands and feet and gagged her. He then hid Donna under the desk. Yellow Belly tells us that he's doing this to Donna because he doesn't want her to be the one who reveals all of his crimes to the bikers. No, he's going to do that himself. For once in his life, he is going to man up. And so, Yellow Belly walks out confidently and tells everyone the truth. As you As you might have expected, a few minutes later, beaten up Yellow Belly is on the asphalt with all of his limbs chained and tied to different bikes. The bikers are about to rip him apart. However, before they can do that, they hear police sirens in the distance. Ricky tells the others to take care of the cops, but unfortunately these are not your typical cops that can be bribed off. No, these are crossed cops, and they won't stop until everyone here is either dead or one of them. The cop cars crash into the bikers, and once again Yellow Belly's life is saved again by sheer luck. He unties himself, grabs a gun, and then decides that he is finally going to play the hero today. He is going to be the hero to the only damsel in his life, Donna. If you haven't figured it out yet, Yellow Belly keeps concocting and deluding himself into justifications so that he can pursue his perverse desires. In this case, he believes that saving Donna is the right thing to do, when in fact he's doing this just so he can get in her pants. Yellow Belly then rushes in, apologizes to Donna, and unties her. He then tells her that everyone is being attacked, but no matter what happens, he is going to save her and he is going to be her hero. Yellow Belly then kills 2 infected cops and then escapes the bar with Donna by his side. Donna simply goes along with him, and when they head outside, Yellow Belly's worst fear comes true. A crossed Betty on the front of a bike with a crossed biker rushes to attack him. This is when Yellow Belly says, "I wondered what I'd do if this moment ever happened. I once thought maybe I'd let her make me a geek too so we could be together. Geeks in love. But that was when I thought I loved her. That was before Donna." And with that, Yellow Belly shoots the front tire of the bike, which sends both Betty and the biker flying in different directions. Betty is crushed beneath the bike, and while she is howling in the background, Yellow Belly romantically takes Donna's hand and says, "Stick with me, baby. I won't let you down." Yellow Belly managed to keep Donna and himself safe for the rest of the day. He found them a couple of sleeping bags and then decided to camp in the woods for the night, away from all the geeks. They kissed and slept with each other. At last, Yellow Belly felt at ease. He didn't have any problems with his manhood that night, and this leads Yellow Belly to believe that maybe this is what Lori was talking about. Maybe this was the lesson, to just throw yourself out there and let the consequences be damned. As Edmund closes his eyes, he tells himself that he has finally become a man today, and that he is no longer a Yellow Belly, but that will soon be undone. Because once he has slept, Donna wakes up, grabs a huge stone, and then smashes his face in. She keeps hitting his face with the stone again and again while screaming, "That's for Nicole, you yelly-bellied son of a bitch, fucking coward." And Edmund passes away from this world with the sound of his bones crushing and the feeling of his eyes bursting still fresh in his memory.